The second Miss Drew Barrymore said to Vice President Kamala Harris that she needed to be the mother of America, Mamala, I knew the internet was going to have a field day. A short field day, mind you, because the lifespan of an internet moment is minuscule. But the memory of culture is long. And I just want to add to what we all saw there and some of the controversy and debate that followed. Drew Barrymore has quickly set herself apart with her show as a celebrity who is intimate, close, and very personal. There's a reason how close she sits to her guests on her show has been memed. It's hard to look away from these perfectly constructed images of celebrity being approached so casually. Drew herself is taking her own image, right, as showbiz royalty, as a rich, white, successful princess of Hollywood, down a peg herself. She is behaving casually. She's pulling a Princess Diana. She puts her feet up on the couch. You see those $10,000 suits get wrinkled all up. She cries, she curls right on up there. So what is Drew Barrymore doing? Obviously, we know her show is highly produced. It's a multi-million-dollar show. It's a whole contract with a major network. Think any of this is by coincidence? Absolutely not. I think, and this is just my opinion, that Drew Barrymore, in videos I've saved because I loved them so much and so many other people saved them, that when you produce content that's authentic and vulnerable and even silly, people really connect to it. Now, for sure, she clearly already has the personality and the confidence and just this way of being where she could really lean into this. I don't think everyone could pull off this level of celebrity or this kind of celebrity. She makes a choice to put that into her show. Now, why does she make that choice? A better question might even be, why is that choice allowed by the network? Why does it work? Because it cuts into her power as a rich white woman in Hollywood to connect to regular white ladies that have to go to work to feed themselves, or anybody anywhere who's wondering, why should I have to listen to what a rich white celebrity has to say about what's going on in the world? She has to give up some of that social power in order to be relatable and approachable. It has to feel like us sitting on that couch watching her talk to these other celebrities and big players. And then what also works about this show is she is inviting her guests, these celebrities, to also give up their power and in turn appear more approachable and likable to the general population. This really matters today because as more of us have become aware of wealth disparities and inequities and the extravagant consumption of conscious consumption, I should say, in Hollywood of people who are posting to get viral, for people to see them, for them to stand out and be noticed, it's becoming criticized. So it's not enough, right, to just be like a rich person who has a nice birthday party. Your kids have to have nice birthday parties. You have to have Easter parties like the Kardashian one, where everyone is getting these massive gifts and the sheer amount of candy is nothing. Like, those people can't eat all of that, right? They can't eat that in a year. This conscious consumption has become part of the show. Does it make sense to send a 3-year-old to school in an Hermes bag? No, it doesn't. But it makes you viral and it sells. You get the views. But with the increased views has also come the pushback. Let's put that power, that celebrity power, aside for a second. And let's look at the social positions where that social power actually is protected and preserved by how you act and present yourself. There are 2 examples pertinent to this. Let's say, one, you're the leader of the free world. Might not be even the president, but say you're the vice president of the free world. Or you are a Black, Hispanic, or Asian woman in the United States of America. Now, for the first job, first position, vice president or president, you have to seem collected enough to be trusted with the most powerful military or the codes to certain weapons. You have to be able to be perceived as someone who can lead the free markets and the entire free world. You're someone expected to keep us from entering World War III. You're expected to walk into rooms with sworn enemies of the entire country and hold your ground. Now, there are people, due to our socialization as children in this country, who we just look at and we assume are cool, calm, and collected, who are passionate, not angry and shrill, who are just warm-blooded and not sluts. Catch my drift. Certain people get to just be assumed as going to be good CEOs or presidents or leaders. And others are posers or diversity hires if they get the job. It's hard enough to inhabit that role, say, as president or vice president. But imagine doing it when a significant chunk of the country you're leading believes you can't do the job because you get a period. Now, the women of color I mentioned earlier, due to our socialization and quick 1 second split biases, sometimes we won't assume that they are smart or capable. They're often mistaken as more docile servers who probably won't be comfortable with power, probably don't have any power. When they do have power, it's often unfairly criticized or dismissed, denigrated, or just not seen as the same as somebody else occupying that same position. Our very first Madam Vice President had to walk a thin, thin line to get this job. She had to be warm and kind and nice so she wouldn't appear cold and unwomanly in the role. She had to present as a strong woman, but not an angry Black woman. She had to be classy, but relatable. And hear me when I say this, Kamala Harris can always be held accountable for the choices she makes due to policy, right, as a job. What she shouldn't be held accountable for is her decisions because of her gender or her skin color. The amount of people who will tell me things like they can't stand her and this and that, and it all comes down to her being some alleged slut or who she slept with, as opposed to her policy or her thoughts on democracy, is wild but predictable. We have in America the mammy context from which all of us are operating, right? Where we tend to look at older Black women as going to be the people who provide us a fun time, food, hugs, and they're going to be our auntie. They exist to mother us, but Kamala Harris is not our mother. She's our vice president. She has work to do. I think this is a dynamic was not fully thought through on the show. Drew Barrymore gets super close to Vice President Kamala Harris and does the usual thing where she cuts into her power. It doesn't land the way it usually does because there's already less social power that Kamala Harris is operating from. Of course, some people just looked at this and thought it was unprofessional. It may have put Kamala Harris on the spot to try to preserve some of her dignity and political power in this moment and in this imagery. That's why she responded to that request to become Mamala the way she did. One thing to be Mamala to her stepchildren. It's another thing she has to think about to be mother to America as a Black woman. She is not Aunt Jemima on a syrup bottle. Perhaps if there wasn't such a long history of the Black woman as Mammy from which everyone is suckling from, maybe Kamala Harris would not have felt so uncomfortable. It's already hard enough to be a woman in this position and be respected. It's hard to be acceptable in this role as a real person of power and not just a mother here to come and clean up everyone's messes. I can tell you, I don't think Drew Barrymore was intentionally trying to be rude here. I don't think she thought this one through, and I think she was seeing Kamala Harris through the lens of another rich woman with power. This is why intersections and history are so fascinating. If you saw the interview or felt one way or another about it, doesn't matter, I would love to know. We will on the podcast this upcoming Sunday be talking about the history of white women's power in America through the work of Professor Stephanie E. Jones Rogers and her work in They Were Her Property. If you don't know, the podcast is The Process with Alex Beightol, and that's Beightol. The full name is in the link in my bio. See you all Friday.